Hello everyone and welcome back to another drift build video. Now this week we are going to be covering the Rapid GT, one of the absolute classics for being able to drift in this game. It has got a massive notoriety and for good reason, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to tame this thing. Now I'm going to be running you through all the customization options you need to put on the build, and I'll also give you some extra tips and tricks to get this thing drifting. I would just like to say, if you do enjoy today's video, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. And if you're interested in this sort of drifting guide content, check out my playlist in the top right. But with all of that out of the way, let's get straight into it. So now we have the build. So I'm going to run you through every performance upgrade you should put on this thing and any little quirks and features about the build that basically need to be stressed for this car to drift to its fullest potential. But first things first, starting us off, I'd recommend with the brakes, just leave them stock. This doesn't have a huge effect on drifting, but if you do use your brakes at all to adjust your drift, the more upgraded it is, the more it's going to slow you down and it'll kill off your momentum, so just leave the brakes stock. Moving on to the engine upgrade, engine tunes, just max it out, the maximum possible EMS 4. The higher upgraded your engine is, the more power the car is going to have and the more wheel spin you will get, making it easier to drift. With the spoiler upgrade, leave it stock, don't equip any spoilers as this will give you increased traction, which will make it harder for you to drift. For the suspension option, go ahead and slam it right down, put the competition suspension on it. The lower the car suspension is, the less grippy it will be, and this is pretty key for this car. It does have a decent amount of grip, so lowering it will help with that. Now for your transmission, you want to go ahead and put the race transmission on there, as it will improve your gearbox, making the double clutch or mid-drive speed boost trick a lot easier to pull off and a lot more powerful, which will help you with those longer drifts. And now with the turbo, you want to go ahead and equip it just like your engine. It's going to increase wheel spin and make your engine more powerful, and this is key for drifting it. Now in terms of wheel type, it really doesn't affect the ability to drift, except maybe the off-road tires. So if you want to pick whatever kind of rims, street, SUV, tuner, whatever, pick what you like. But what I do need to stress here is to not equip the bulletproof tires option in tire enhancements. You want to go ahead and keep those standard tires on there. This is because bulletproof tires will not let you stance the car, giving it a reduced traction effect similar to that of the low grip tires. Remember, this is a non-tuner's car, so you can't equip low grips on it. So to go ahead and stance it, you just want to take a weapon and shoot the wheel arches at these points, or you want to shoot the bottom half of the wheel, and you will actually see the car physically drop down 2 times, and you want to do that for every side. So where every wheel is, you want to drop it down twice. Doing this will give the car a ton less traction and will make it significantly easier to drift. Now that covers all of the essentials for the drift tune in the build, and everything from this point is purely cosmetic in case you'd like to replicate my build. And then after this section, I'll go into depth with some tips and tricks on how to drift this car effectively. Now first up, with the armor, I just went with the stock option just so stancing's a little bit easier. For the exhaust, I went with the titanium exhaust. For the hood, I went with the stock hood. The lights I just kept stock. The license plate is the blue on white plate with the Eurobeat custom plate. The respray color is just a metallic red with a sunrise orange pearlescent. Just like before, we did not equip a spoiler. Went ahead and slammed it all the way down, slapped on the transmission and turbo upgrades. And then for the wheel choices, I went with the Hyper Fresh wheels in the street category. The color for this was black. And then for tire smoke, I went ahead and made it red. Finally, the last thing on this is the window tint, which I put the light smoke option for. But that is pretty much everything on this car, the whole build. So let me know your feedback on that down below. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. But now let's get into some analysis on the car and some tips on how to drift it. Now, as many of you may know, the Rapid GT is an incredibly capable drift car and is one of the best in the game even after the tuners update. But this does come with a somewhat steep learning curve. This isn't the easiest car to drift with. It's got about a medium difficulty, so you need to be somewhat competent with skills to drift it for other drift cars as well, such as the mid-drive speed boost, throttle control, counter steering, all of that kind of stuff, because this car does rely on you using those skills a bit more, or it's a bit more advanced to kind of use those effectively with this car. One key problem that this car has is that it will tend to straighten out very quickly, especially if you're at higher speeds. So it's kind of difficult to keep your momentum going around the corner if you don't always use the mid-drive or double clutch trick to its full potential. So using the double clutch or mid-drive trick will help you to keep that momentum going, and it will help you slide through those corners super easily, get you transitioning, all of that, and keep it going for a really long time. If you do need a guide for it, by the way, I've got an in-depth guide for it in the top right. But yeah, the mid-drive is incredibly important to get this thing drifting. It is quite difficult to drift this car without it, and you know, you will need to practice with it. Because with this car especially, it's a little bit, the timing for it, in my opinion, is slightly different than some other vehicles. But mostly it just comes down to getting a feel for the car, getting some practice, and you know, once you start using it a little bit more, you'll understand it better and you'll just gradually improve. It's just like, as I said, it's a learning curve. As well as that, some other things to keep in mind are that it can feel a tad bit unresponsive, as I did mention, at higher speeds. So you might want to consider slowing down a tiny bit for some of those entries if you're a little bit more inexperienced. Just because those lower speed drifts, it's easier to get the car going sideways. But you know, if you're trying anything crazy, if you're not already at a decently high skill level for drifting, it will be quite difficult to pull anything off at higher speed. But what can help with this, one thing is counter steering. Now, this is a key skill for most drift cars, but counter steering, you know, you'll turn in to go ahead and get your car closer to whichever way you're turning, closer to the corner, turn outwards to turn away from it. And you want to kind of balance this by, you know, as you see, I'm wiggling my wheel left and right, you know, just kind of balancing between moving the car out and in. Doing that constantly will help keep that line nice and smooth as you're taking the corners, and will kind of combat the fact that the car will try and straighten out quite quickly. Another thing that I need to mention really is that this car as well, with its high power, can have a tendency to spin out quite easily if you don't manage your throttle correctly. So just like the Banshees at R350, those kind of cars, this is going to be a little bit more violent with you. If you take a corner quite quickly, you use the mid-drive, you need to be quite careful about how much throttle you put on the exit especially, or the car will be prone to spinning out. But at the end of the day, everything really just comes down to practice and really to the time you put into this. And you know, if you're already decent with some of the skills for this, you should find no problem trying this car out. I'd highly recommend it. It's one of my personal favorites, and I think you'll have a blast trying it out. But that's going to be it for today's video. Hopefully you did find it helpful and enjoyed it. Please do leave a like and a sub if you did. It'd be greatly appreciated. But that's going to be it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.